My name is Adekunle Adelowo. I work for an organization known as Data Fight. I'm sure most of you were here during the earlier conversation. So Data Fight Foundation is a civil society organization, and our focus is on media analysis and research, and building technological tools that drive socio-economic growth and impact, right? So today, in this session, I'll be taking us through how data and AI can lead or can translate to socio-economic impact. That's impact in the society. I know we all here were more of data people, technological people, but this session I'm trying to show us how, our work as data engineers, as data scientists, will translate into a primary school being built in a particular local government, or how our work as a data engineer will translate to interventions in particular local communities, right? So we all know that data journalism, we are not just doing data journalism or data for itself. We are doing it with an end goal in mind. So looking at the agenda today, I'll be talking about, first of all, the role of data in civic development, right? So we'll be exploring how data is important in civic development, how data is important in making sure that infrastructure-wise, in terms of our schools, our hospitals, are being developed properly, right? So in the NGO world, this is one of the things that we care about. And secondly, I'll be talking about leveraging AI in data journalism, how AI can be a big game changer in terms of data journalism. And the next thing I'm going to be discussing is interacting with data in a new way, right? We all, as data engineers, we are used to using pivot tables, using all our fancy tools to interact with data or to pull out insights from data, right? But going to the rural areas, to our mommies and daddies in the markets, right? They don't know what a pivot table is. They don't know even how to filter or to sort a particular table, right? So we'll be looking at how AI can help these sets of people interact with data in a new way. And then we'll be looking at the challenges and ethical consideration, and then we'll open the floor up for any. We are gathering this data because we are trying to track corruption in our public sectors, right? So I just want to let us know that data, it doesn't end there. Data is actually a driving force for socio-economic development. So the more available data we have, means that we can have more societal development and civic empowerment. And in the NGO world, we've had several situations where this has led to many interventions. For example, stories that DataFight have published have led to many interventions in public school systems, in primary healthcare centers across Nigeria. This wouldn't have been possible if DataFight didn't go to gather this data and make it available for other civil society organizations to engage with and then uncover some of these things, right? So we can see that data is actually a very powerful tool for socio-economic development and growth, right? So we have several platforms that DataFight have been working on or built that sees to socio-economic development and empowerment. So we have platforms like Anfani. Anfani is a platform where you can go on that platform and you have access to public procurement data as well as beneficial ownership data, right? So a curious mind can go there and say, okay, this project in my local government, right? Who were the contractors that were awarded this project, right? You can see that contractor. You can see the beneficial owners of that contractor. You can say, okay, these are the board of directors of that particular contractor. And then you can link all these data for you to make informed decisions or for you to do any form of investigative reporting that you may want to do. So we as a data is not just something that we try to gather and to publish, but it's something that we see that as a real tool for socio-economic empowerment and reforms. And this is not just data fight, right? Most civil society organizations, when you're going to present a case to the government, for example, you say, okay, we have found some discrepancies in your data. Probably a particular project was budgeted for and it was awarded, but it was not implemented, right? You need data as your proof. You need data as your hard facts, such that when you are going to, for advocacy in all these government institutions, you have factual data to back up your claim. So we can see that data is not just something that we are trying to gather, but it's actually a very important tool in dispatching, civic advocacies and trying to bring about change in our society. So there are many other examples of where, different civil society organizations have used data to bring about change. Yeah. So data, one thing we need to know, sorry, previous slide. Data is next slide, please. Something we need to know about data is that data on its own has no power, right? My pivot table alone cannot bring about change in my community, right? My really cool visualization about the projects or about all the allocated projects in my local governments alone cannot bring about change in the society. So what really drives change in the society is data and engagement, right? So we need people to engage with this data. We need data that people will engage with. So it's the engagement with this data that brings about this change. So how do I mean by that? So the data alone will not bring about this change, but people like us, data journalists that are making visualizations, for example, sparking meaningful conversations in the public domains, inspiring actions from different people, right? Data alone cannot inspire action. First of all, you need to understand what data you are looking at, right? Before anybody will be inspired to take any action about any data, first of all, they need to understand that data. And the next step in making people to understand that data is analyzing this data and bringing it out in a way that appeals to the general society. And we all know that depending on your background, right, you may be comfortable seeing a very good chart, a column chart, a pie chart, but a lay person may not be able to interact with that data in that manner. It may not inspire the same kind of action as it would in a technical mind. So we understand that engagement with data is what drives change and not just the data alone. So for data to have its desired impact, it must be transformed, it must be processed, it must be presented in a way that resonates with the target audience, right? And inspiring those audiences to make meaningful actions, right? So I'll give you a little story, right? We're going for some intervention projects, right? Some intervention projects in some villages in Adamawa State, right? And when we got there, many people in that particular, it was supposed to be a PHC, a primary health care center, right? But many of the citizens of that particular locale, number one, they did not know that this PHC project has been awarded and it needed to be built. They didn't know the amounts. They didn't know anything about that project, right? And before then, right, we have been sending out different data to maybe the local government chairman, to people in that particular village. But we found out that they are not interacting with that data. It's looking boring to them. They don't know what to even do with the data, right? But we found out that once we were able to present this data in a more relatable way, in a way that is meaningful to them, in a way, so instead of telling them, saying 500 or 50 million was allocated for this PHC and it was not done, right? We try to show them what 50 million can do in different places, right? Because a lot of people, when they hear 50 million, we can't really quantify or say what 50 million is worth or what it can. If you say 50 million was embezzled, right? In your mind, what are you are thinking, oh, okay, maybe what can that buy? What can that do? You don't really know what 50 million can do. But if I visualize and say 50 million is 5 classrooms, it can provide water for you for 10 years in this place, can build 10 boreholes, then you begin to have a clearer sense of what the monetary value of 50 million is. And that's the way that we are looking of presenting data to people and making them engage with the data and inspiring action in these communities. Next slide. So next, I'm going to be talking about how AI fits into this picture, right? And in that aspect, I'm also going to be talking about data journalism, right? So data journalism is about gathering and processing data in ways that inspires positive action and creates lasting societal impact. Like I said, gathering data is not just about gathering data. It's about what you do with the data. It's about how you engage with the data. And data journalism is that aspect that takes this data and then presents it in a way that will inspire action among people, that will help people make more meaning of the data, that will make the data interesting for people to want to engage, right? So, but we all know as data journalists, most of us here are data engineers, data scientists. We all know what it takes from the point of fetching raw data to cleaning it, to analyzing it, to creating visuals, right? We all know that takes a lot of skills, some real skills, right? We're all trying to learn how to use all the latest tools, Power BI, learning how to manipulate SQL data and stuff like that, right? So we can see that the journey you go from gathering this data to presenting it in a way that is meaningful and that inspires action actually takes a lot of work and a lot of skills, of which many civil society organizations may not necessarily have. And that's where AI comes in, right? I know in our first session this morning we say AI is not going to replace human, and AI is not even going to it's not going to fill your data skill gaps, right? But what if I don't have any data skills in the first place, right? So it's one thing to have data skills and be able to manipulate data and be able to analyze data. It's another thing not having this background or not being in this space. We are all data scientists here. This may come naturally to us, right? But for many journalists that are all about telling stories, right? Data crunching and data processing may not come naturally. And we all know that this particular skill set or the process of transforming data from raw data to insights is actually a long and a tedious process. And that's where leveraging AI can come in, right? So in the civil society space, leveraging AI can be a game changer, because it then means that we don't need to have all the complex data crunching skills, right? We can leverage AI to help us generate insights, to help us generate good context that can be able to tell the story, that can be able to tell stories that will impact our communities. Next slide, please. So these are the different areas where we can leverage AI in data journalism. So number one is gathering and cleaning data, right? So access to public data is undergoing a significant transformation, with AI playing a crucial role in capturing, structuring, and formatting data more efficiently and accurately than ever before. So a lot of things that we do in data journalism, or in data science, should I say, is about producing structured data, right? It's about taking, for example, our budget. It was published in a PDF format, right? It was just a PDF was published. That's how it comes from the National Assembly, right? But in order for you to use this data, you need to make it structured. You need to convert it to your Excel, to your CSV, to your JSON, right? And we all know that that process till this point has always been tedious, right? So in terms of gathering public data and producing structured outputs, AI can be a very, very powerful tool in that. So in data journalism, most of what we do is trying to get any unstructured data that we may have. An example could be in terms of reporting procurement processes, right? So a particular project, should I say, is about monitoring corruption in public procurement spaces, right? And in order for you to monitor corruption in public procurement, the first thing you need to do is to have access to all the contracts that are being awarded via the MDAs, right? Is to have access to the tendering process, right? To all the people that bidded for that particular information, right? But we all know that this data, most of the time, they come in hard copy files, right? They come in hard copy files. They come in, and the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies, right, that handle these processes, they always keep hard copy files, right? And we need this data to be in a structured way such that we can analyze it, right? So getting from your hard copy files to structured data has always been tedious. I've been in this space for over 8 years now. And the way we normally do it before AI is that we go to all these ministries, departments, and agencies, and then we collect these hard copy files. We collect all the contract information, collect all the tendering information, collect all the budgeting information, right? And then we start filling them into Excel sheets. But now that we have AI, we are simply leveraging AI to do this data collection process for us, whereby all we have to do is directly from the ministry, department, and agencies, they upload all their contract information, the tendering process, and the AI is able to extract those specific information from those documents and produce the structured outputs that we can now make use of in terms of monitoring corruption and doing other things. So AI has really been a game changer in terms of extracting and collecting data. The second place where we are leveraging AI in data journalism is in the analysis, right? Many data journalists are not technically savvy. Some of them are, or many newsrooms, they leverage people like ourselves to be able to analyze this data and produce insights, right? But with the help of AI now, it means that many newsrooms, we have democratized the ability to produce visualization and analysis, right? Many newsroom agencies can now leverage AI to produce analysis for them, and they are able to analyze their information and able to take action based on the analysis and insight that is being generated for them. So presentation, right? Like I said before, it's not just about gathering data. It's about gathering data and telling stories and presenting it in a format that inspires action in people, that inspires change, right? So this is another area where AI can help us, right? So we need AI to help us present this data in a way that is more relatable to us, right? Nobody wants to see a big table, a very large table of data, and trying to crunch it or look or search it or do anything. Most of the time, we are looking for specific, nuanced information. At no point will you be trying to use all the data that you have at the same time, right? Most of the time, you are trying to look for, okay, what's the highest amount, what's the lowest amount, what's the average, how much did this particular person get, how much did this other particular person get, right? So in presenting this data, AI can really help us to present the data in a way that is more relatable to the target audience, be it a market woman in the village or a more technically savvy person. So presentation is key in this aspect. And the last part I would like to talk about is how we are leveraging AI in data journalism is engagement. Like we said, gathering data is not the end goal, but it's transforming this data and making impact that is the end goal. And for us to make impact with data, we need to be able to interact with this data. Interacting with the data is where the value is being unlocked, right? So if I don't interact with my data to find out that, okay, this particular contractor has been the one winning the same contract in this particular ministry, right? I need to interact with the data to find out that this contractor has been winning multiple projects. Is it that there are no other contractors? Is it that this is the only contractor available for this particular kind of job? So I need to interact with this data. But sometimes, many of us may not be able to find, even if I give you this data now, you may not be able to find out that, this particular contractor has won multiple awards from the same ministry. You may not be able to find that out. You still need skills to be able to manipulate that data to show you that this particular contractor has won this project a number of times. But when we are leveraging AI, it's as simple as asking the AI, right? It's just a simple of which contractor has the highest amount of contract, and then the AI can then help us give that answer. So we can see that AI is a really big game changer for us in the data journalism world. Next slide, please. So one of the case studies that we have at Data Fights for data journalism is our tool known as Nubia AI. So Nubia AI is a tool that we have built in-house, following all what we have just said about, trying to bridge the gap between your raw data and your insights, your raw data and inspired action, between raw data and civic impact, between raw data and transformation, raw data and interventions, right? So we've come up with this Nubia tool, and what we plan or what we are doing with it is to help newsrooms and journalists that may not have the data skills to be able to generate insights from their data, right? So on this platform, you can go on the platform, upload your data. It accepts multiple formats of data, both CSV, PDFs, and audio, video. You can add this data there and generate insights from the data. So doing this, we are able to shorten the time span from gathering this data to getting insights from it. So this is one of the features of this platform. And that thing is being able to generate stories from your data, right? So editorial teams can leverage the power of Nubia AI to generate captivating content moving at the speed of light, right? I don't know how many of us, you have read a very, very nice story before. You read this story, it was very nice, it was inspiring, you are reading this story, oh my gosh, it's so nice. But at the end of the day, I want to ask us a question. If you discover that story that you read, that you enjoyed so much, was written by an AI, how many of us will be offended? Okay, I can see some hands up. Okay. So, so you can see that we're trying to strike a balance between what AI-generated content and human-generated content, right? But I always have this analogy that I use. I ask people all the time. I say, let's say I'm the president of Nigeria and I ordered police to arrest somebody, right? Who arrested the person? Is it the police or am I the one that arrested the person? So, but I'm the one that ordered police to arrest somebody, right? So, by transitive property, I'm still the one that arrested that person. So, we can apply the same analogy with AI. So, if I prompt AI to write a story for me, am I the one that wrote the story or is it AI that wrote the story? Okay, so, but we need to be able to strike the balance, right? Because it's actually from our inputs that AI is able to generate these outputs, right? AI cannot do anything on its own, but with human input. The only thing we are using AI to do is to create efficiency, right? To speed it up, right? Trust me, what I can write with AI is different from what someone else can still write with AI, right? So I can produce wonderful content with AI. Someone else may produce content that is not so good with AI, right? So this is an advocacy for those of us that may be offended by AI-generated content. So this is some of the works that we are doing with Nubia AI. Also, we are also trying to train or fine-tune. They know things about the Nigerian content. This way, they are able to generate stories that are more African, that are more Nigerian, that they can write in a Nigerian style, right? Such that we are still able to produce captivating content. Because like I said, the goal is not just to produce content. The goal is to produce content that inspires action, right? Content that people will enjoy, content that sparks up ideas, content that sparks up public conversations about societal issues. That's the main goal. So these are some of the works that we are doing with Nubia AI. So I want to speak about interacting with data in a new way. I already alluded to this, that the fact that you have a large set of data here doesn't mean that you can get what you want from that data, right? Most of the times we are looking for nuanced information in that data, right? Sometimes we may want to find the needle in the haystack, right? We may want to compare, right? We want to compare between prices of this and prices of that, right? But in doing so, we realize that we need to be able to, first of all, whatever platform you are using to do this comparison or this analysis needs to enable you to click a button or press this or press that to be able to bring out that visualization, right? But with AI now, I believe that the future of interacting with data is more human. Interacting with data is now about you speaking to your data, not even necessarily typing, you speaking with your voice, your human voice. We are going to be doing away with clicking of buttons and trying to manipulate different visuals, right? So the future of interacting with data is more human, which in turn is just speaking with the data. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so I have just say don't waste time trying to manipulate your spreadsheet to find information. Just ask AI. See, looking for the perfect Excel formula to get the sales projection for your data, just ask AI, right? I'm looking for these infographics and charts. I can't quite make sense of it. What is this chart telling me, right? Just ask AI. So in the future, I believe that we are not going to be clicking buttons. We are just going to be asking AI. Next chart, next slide, please. So I want to quickly talk about the ethical considerations. So some of the ethical considerations, journalistic integrity, right, is a very important part. We need to be able to balance AI output with human input, right? you generating fully AI story is not a good idea, right? AI is supposed to be a tool to help you in efficiently generating the story, but you fully relying on AI is not a good idea. Bias and managing privacy, right? AI can generate misleading and false content, right? So we need to be able to make sure we are supervising AI and making sure we get quality information from AI.